lovely listeners. It is your podcast host with the most, Uncle Ben, and who is that man on the other end of that Skype call?
Your podcast Ghost with the most. It's Halloween, Steven Bradley.
Is that so?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
You know, my wife loves Halloween. I know you and your lovely wife love Halloween.
We do.
And I've always enjoyed the season and loved watching the horror movies, but I watch horror movies all the time. But this year I am actually, for some reason, really excited for Halloween, and I think it's because in LA we're in the middle of this terrible heat wave that sucks a big fat asshole. And it's like fucked up my sleep, and like I don't know if you have any sinus issues from like humidity and sinus pressure. Oh my gosh,
it's terrible.
My sinuses have been terrible. So if I sound a little stuffed up, that's what's going on.
Just a little bit clamped.
Yeah, October out here is when because it's interesting. August and September can still be extremely hot out here.
Mm-hmm.
But October is when everything starts to get back to like just nice LA weather. So I'm finding myself super excited for Halloween.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because actually over the past maybe week or so here in Tennessee, I'll mention to our listeners, we're recording this. What is this, like first week of July as we record this right now? Second week of July?
Yeah, second week. Mm-hmm.
And but this will be released a little bit later on. But it's funny because I've been having these pangs of urging for Halloween here lately too, because here in Tennessee we've had kind of several random days where the weather has felt like mid-October. Like there's been like super low humidity. It's been like mid 70s or so. Clear blue skies. Like it just feels like Halloween time here. So lately I've just been like jonesing for Halloween too. So it's funny that you mentioned that, although for completely different reasons.
Yeah. October in East Tennessee is amazing. Like
God, yeah, it's beautiful.
I never realized how spoiled I was because I grew up in that area, and even when I lived in Russia, I actually lived in an area that was the Ural Mountains. They're kind of like the same sort of old type of mountains, like the Appalachian Mountains, and so they had similar falls. And it wasn't until I moved out here that like I started to realize like, oh God, fall can be just hideous in other places. Like here, it's just brown and gross.
Yeah, here in Tennessee, it's usually fucking beautiful. Usually got that really nice seasonal change of the colors, and you can open up the windows, but it's still kind of warm. It's not usually too cold. It's always a fun time. Always a fun time. So I always really, really enjoy that season. What have you been up to this week, Steve? You watched anything good on that television?
Have I watched anything good on that television? Well, I have. I've watched a few good things. I watched A Few Good Men. No, I didn't. I didn't watch A Few Good Men. I don't know if you've ever seen on Hulu. They have an anthology horror type series called Dimension 404. It's good. There's like 6 episodes of it. It actually reminds. It's like a young adult horror anthology. So it's got the feel of Are You Afraid of the Dark or something like that. But it's adult. So like it's the stories aren't dumbed down like kid style. So it's good. Patton Oswalt's in an episode.
That's rad. I'll definitely have to check that out.
I also I watched Prom Night,
the original,
the other day. I think I mentioned that maybe last week. Yeah,
I need to watch it. I've never seen it.
It's good. It's on Amazon, so worth checking out for sure. I also watched a little film called A Field in England, which is
I don't know that.
So cool. Check it out.
What is it?
That's on Shudder. It's directed by the person who did Kill List.
Okay.
It's black and white, and I would call it something like psychedelic black comedy horror.
Damn, that sounds really interesting.
It's real fun. It's a fun film.
That's cool, man.
So I'd check that out. What have you been watching there, Ben?
Actually, a whole bunch of really cool stuff here recently. So tonight, actually, my wife and I started watching the Starz adaptation of American Gods by Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
And
how you liking it?
It's fucking rad. We sat there and watched like 2 episodes, and I think that it's fucking awesome. We've both read the book and loved it. Neil Gaiman's fucking awesome. I think that's one of his best books. I love the subject matter. I love mythology and stuff like that. So I thought the subject matter was really interesting. So I think the show has been super cool. Again, we're 2 episodes in. Somebody told me, have you watched it?
I've seen the pilot or the first one, and yeah, it's great. I will be getting back to it soon.
Have you read the book?
Yes.
Oh, it's so good, right?
Yeah, Neil Gaiman. I have you read Norse mythology?
No, but I keep seeing it on the bookshelves, and I'm like, God, I need that.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Damn.
I love, like, he has the same like interest and like that sort of glee in mythology that I feel when I read mythology.
Right.
So reading his stuff is great.
Damn it, I need to get that for sure. I like his stuff a lot. But somebody had told me that around maybe episode 4 or so, it starts taking... Apparently, it kind of strays away from the book a little bit around there. So
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's like we said before. It's like, books are books, movies are movies.
Yeah, just have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, there are always those things in a book that's like, that's my favorite scene. I wanted to see that played out. I actually don't ever really feel that way myself, though, because it's like, I'd rather have it in my head the way I have it in my head. If it's my favorite scene, like, no one's ruined it. Like,
that's true.
What if they do your favorite scene, but they do it in a way that, like, you just hate? Like, so sometimes maybe it's great that they skipped your favorite scene from the book.
Kind of like what you're saying here is that your favorite part of a book that you've read is kind of like Side Boob, where it's never really disappointing.
even if it's a hairy man side boob,
exactly.
It's like, oh, well, all right, okay,
all right. But the American Gods series, I think, has been really cool so far. I've seen some criticism about it from people, but I think it's people that probably haven't read the book or maybe haven't read anything else of Neil Gaiman's, because his stuff just has that Neil Gaiman flavor, where it's like, it'll be dark and mysterious and fantastical, but also somewhat whimsical
but yeah, funny, like weird stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever read his Marvel 1602?
Yes, it's so fucking sick, dude. Yes.
Yeah, 1602 is great, and the way that he deals with the Peter Parker like analog, 1602 analog, is really funny and like whimsical and like meta and weird. But like overall it's a pretty sort of serious story.
And speaking of Peter Parker, we went and saw the new Spider-Man last week.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, speaking of Peter Parker, my gay porn name.
Have you seen the new Spider-Man yet, though?
No, I haven't. I would love to see it. I'm a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it looks great, and I love the kid playing Spider-Man. He's perfect.
He is the best Peter Parker, the best Spider-Man that we have had by a mile. Kid is fucking born to play that role. He is badass. I kind of feel like I'm watching like Mark Bagley era, Peter Parker on screen. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
There's a few things in there, like there's a few casting choices I guess I could sit here and get mad about. But they're done so well that I'm fine with it. Like, well, obviously, like Marissa Tomei is Aunt May.
Yeah. I love Marissa Tomei, so I don't have a huge problem with that. But she doesn't fit the comic book character. She is more young and vibrant.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what though, it's pretty cool in the movie the way that they play it, because like, again, like you said, she is nothing like Aunt May from the comic book. She's not an old decrepit.
Yeah.
Old lady and stuff like this. She is a, younger, hot old lady, I guess you could say. A cougar of sorts.
A cougar of sorts.
But
right? Yeah.
What is cool about that is they were very self-aware about it. And one thing that is kind of cool to see in the movie that you just don't really see a lot in like Hollywood flicks is you don't really see a lot of older ladies portrayed as hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, And I was gonna say, actually, I was thinking like the thinking behind that probably has to be, well, Aunt May in the comics looks like a 90-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And there's no way Peter Parker's aunt is a 90-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Even if it's a great aunt, that just seems too far out there. Your aunt is usually gonna look like Marissa Tomei when you're a teenage boy. I mean, if she's, if she is an attractive lady,
Yeah.
perhaps she won't look like Marissa Tomei, and that's cool.
I know mine doesn't. But it's cool though, because like so much in Hollywood, it's like, the minute that a female crosses the age line of 40, it's like she's not allowed to be hot anymore.
Yeah,
but
that's
it's cool
ridiculous.
to see her in this. It's cool to see her in this movie where, she is. I think she's around 50-ish.
Mm-hmm. She looks good.
Oh, she's fantastic and just a wonderful actress.
Let's get real pervy right now. She looks good.
She looked good. But it's just cool to see that they're like making it okay with her being hot. So I think that that's a cool thing. But just overall, the movie, man, it has like that teenage high school vibe that all the other Spider-Man movies have completely lacked. Like a lot of the actors and actresses in the movie are really young. They look like teenagers.
Yeah.
You feel like you're in high school. It's not, a bunch of 30-year-olds playing high school seniors in the movie like they usually do in movies. It's really fun. Great balance of wit. It takes some twists and turns that genuinely like shut the theater down. Like in terms,
Really?
Oh my God, dude. And I won't spoil anything, but there's some stuff that happens throughout the movie and some scenes that are just unbelievably tense where it's like you could have heard a pin drop in the theater. Really, really well done.
That's awesome.
I had a blast. And even like my wife like hates Spider-Man. She's hated all the Spider-Man movies and cartoons and all that stuff. And even she really, really enjoyed the movie. So that says something.
Wow. So you're saying this film gave her a soul finally?
It did. It finally did. So I really enjoyed that. I recommend watching it.
My wife also hates Spider-Man. I think there's a good reason for that. I don't think Spider-Man has ever, in the comics, at least while we were growing up, it never really portrayed female characters exactly well. They were always just something like an object that Spider-Man had to save.
That's true.
And like the fact is, like Spider-Man 2, which I've always thought that's a great comic book movie my wife doesn't love, and as I was thinking about it, it was like, oh, that makes sense, because really the entire impetus in Spider-Man 2, his whole thing where he's worried about being discovered as Peter Parker is Spider-Man, is he's worried that his possession, Mary Jane, is going to get taken from him. Like he's constantly protecting the women in his life. Instead of the women in his life having a lot of like, agency and authority of their own.
I just really hated that the way that Kirsten Dunst played her eyes made her look like Mary Jane smoked pot. I mean, Mary Jane smoking pot. I mean, it's just too on the nose. And she just looks stoned all the time. I didn't like that.
I didn't think about that at all. Wow. Why, that's so weird and like strangely innocent in my head that I've never thought of Mary Jane and marijuana in the same. That's weird.
And Kirsten Dunst is clearly stoned all the time. Well, I watched another flick this week, Stephen, by the name of
what it was?
Tales from the Darkside, the movie.
That's such a coincidence, Ben, because I also watched that and I want to talk about it.
We should do a podcast about it.
Okay. Are you going to hit record?
Go.
This is how we talk when we're not recording.
It actually kind of is.
Yeah. True. The moment you pick up the Skype call, it's like, hello, dead and lovely listener.
Yeah, that's just how I answer the phone all the time.
Yeah.
So, is this the first time that you've watched this flick, Steve?
No, I've seen this movie a ton of times.
2,000 pounds of times.
Yeah, yeah, which is all right. So, what is the weight of time? Let's figure this out. So, all right, let's get the subreddit. They did the math on this. What is the weight of time?
Yeah.
And how much time would fill 2,000 pounds worth?
Yeah, and if this movie being an hour and 20-something minutes long, what would its weight be to equivalent to being a ton of movie?
I'm gonna guess it's somewhere around like 10 times. I've probably seen it about 10 times.
I think this is my third time watching it.
Yeah, it's a movie that used to come on a lot. I think on USA maybe or something like that. Because I mean, it's not a. This isn't a movie that has like real strong sexual content or anything. And just some slight removals of fucks, and it's easy to toss it on TV. So it used to be played pretty regularly, I think, which is interesting because I know at least in my area in East Tennessee, I don't remember Tales from the Darkside, the show, coming on ever. No,
me neither.
Like, so the movie played pretty often, but the show was kind of absent.
Right.
Ben, I hear that you love horror anthology series and you've seen them all. Is that right?
That is fake news, Steve. That's fucking fake news. That is the liberal media spinning things on me that are not true. I've never seen any of them, Steve. This is actually an area of my horror movie watching, which, as I've mentioned, is a late in life obsession. The horror anthology kind of thing is something that I have definitely missed out on. There's a few movies that I've seen, like a Creep Show and a VHS and stuff like this, but all of the cool sort of serial TV series and stuff like this, I've not really watched. I've watched we watched a season of American Horror Story and it was fucking shot. It sucked. And
you didn't see it? Did you see the first one, or did you just watch a random season?
We watched the one that was about witches. I think it was the third one.
Yeah, just watch the first one and then be done with it.
Okay.
But the first season is amazing. Like, it's so good.
So despite what you would hear about me, I have actually not seen very many of these anthology horror series. But maybe if I had perhaps a good friend to recommend me some to check out, maybe he could sort of twist my arm maybe into becoming a real boy and watching some. I don't know. Do you know of anybody who could lead me towards that, Steve?
Now, I have heard, Ben, and let me check my source here. Yeah, no, it was me earlier in a text. I have heard that you are an immortal, and that if you watch a horror anthology series, it will actually make you experience mortality and make you killable for a brief moment, much like the Dragon Grin shout in Skyrim.
Well, it's a good thing that I'm wearing my suit of mithril armor right now, because if I'm gonna learn about these anthologies, I need to be in an invulnerable state.
All right, so let me go ahead and lecture you for a bit here.
Hang on,
listeners are like,
hang on one second. Let me tighten up my mithril. Check this out.
All right. Yeah,
that was me tightening my mithril.
Okay, and we all know mithril really will save your ass if someone is coming at you with a horror anthology series.
Yeah, exactly.
So, listeners will already be like, oh fuck, this is a Stephen heavy episode. So they're going crazy. They're like, yes, he's the fucking Intercontinental champ.
Yeah. You've seen a few of these, huh?
I've seen tons of them. Here's the thing, though, just in general about horror anthology, is that horror has always been a great genre for anthology. And the one way to think of that is think of horror short story. Most of the time, those short stories would appear in anthology magazines that would package together these sort of different various horror stories that rarely had anything to do with one another, but would sometimes be held together with this frame narrative,
like H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos and so on.
Yeah, exactly. And even going back, if you look at like Edgar Allan Poe and Nathaniel Hawthorne and writers back then, a lot of their stuff came out in short stories. And those short stories would appear in like weekly literary magazines and stuff. And then later comic books would pick up the slack with a lot of horror titles like Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror and stuff like that. So it's almost natural that horror would sort of take on this anthology genre.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the main reasons is because we've seen a lot of horror movies. A lot of times in a horror movie, the story is really only good and tense for about 20 to 40 minutes.
True.
And so there's a lot of filler, a lot of padding. But with an anthology series, what you get to do is cut out the filler. You get to, for 22 minutes on television, you get to just show the tension. You get to show what's scary, what's horrific, what is it that's driving this horror.
Mm-hmm. Just the meaty bits.
Yeah, the meaty bits. And so we've had series around since the earliest days of television.
It's kind of like the Lucky Charms just marshmallows, or the Captain Crunch just berries.
Yeah. Yeah. They were like, oops, we pulled the horror lever. And it filled up your television screen. Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Twilight Zone, Outer Limits. Those are all like well-known anthology series from back in the day. Mm-hmm. And really only Alfred Hitchcock Presents is purely horror, because Twilight Zone and Outer Limits would
sci-fi.
Incorporate a lot of like sci-fi, which is fine. I mean, I don't think sci-fi and horror are that far apart, and a lot of times can be easily mashed together.
Event Horizon.
Yeah, exactly. Event Horizon or Alien.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like anything like that.
And some of those old ones I actually did watch quite a bit of whenever I was a kinder kid growing up. There used to be some channel that would show Alfred Hitchcock, reruns and stuff, and they would show some of the Twilight Zone stuff. So I watched some of that. I think I probably watched the most of the Alfred Hitchcock ones. I think that was actually probably some of my earliest exposure to anything kind of horror related,
And Little Ben was just like, oh, this is titillating.
This makes my bowl cut tingle.
Speaking of bowl cuts, Bill Gates Jr., get me whiskey. Go now,
Get
boy.
over there, son. What kind of whiskey is he bringing you tonight?
Evil Evan Williams. Pretty consistent sipper for me.
I'm on board. That's a good old cheapo, man. I had, as a birthday gift from my father-in-law, he got me a bottle of the Elijah Craig small batch.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. That's what I was having earlier tonight. It was so good.
It's so delicious.
So why don't you go ahead and start trying to twist my arm into watching some of this bullshit that you're saying? I don't fucking believe any of it's going to be any damn good, so you better fucking sell me on it.
All right. Look, I have 3 series that are going to sway you into the right way, the truth, the life, Jesus Christ. That's what we're talking about here today.
The power of anthology shan't not compel me.
Ooh, Baba Kanda.
Ooh, Baba Kanda. Yes, Lord, yes.
So, but here are my recommendations, and I'm going to start with the one that I know will win you over, and then move a little sillier and a little sillier.
All right,
okay.
Hit me with your best shot. Fire away.
Masters of Horror.
Masters of Horror. Okay. Now, I have seen just a few of these through exposure from my man Brandon Suttles, who we've talked about a couple times on this podcast.
Yeah.
What's up, Brandon? He showed me several of his favorite episodes of those, and I get them mixed up because I think at the same time we were watching like 3 Extremes and stuff like that too. So, which is another horror anthology movie.
Yeah.
So I think I have some of them mixed up, but I think I've watched a few of them. Okay, so is the whole series good?
Okay, well, it's only 2 seasons. You're only dealing with about 20-something episodes. I think every one of them is worth watching for sure. The majority of them are really good.
Am I going to be seeing glitz and glamour, flash and panache?
Well, let me just tell you, here are some of the directors from the Masters of Horror series. Toby Hooper, director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
All right. I've heard of him.
Dario Argento.
Oh, it's got
Space Alien.
It's got the Argents, that space vampire Dario Argento.
Joe Dante, director of The Howling, Gremlins, etc.
Good stuff.
Lucky McKee, one of my favorite newer directors, who directed The Woman and May and a ton of other good stuff. Takashi Miike.
Oh, yes.
Who famously directed the episode called Imprint, which Showtime refused to show because they said it was too disgusting.
I think that's maybe one of the ones that Brandon showed me because Brandon's a huge Takashi fan.
Yeah.
Speaking of Takashi, if you guys want to hear our take on Takashi, go back and listen to our Audition episode. Rate and review us on iTunes.
Audition is actually a really great episode, so go back and listen to it.
Good.
Let me tell you some of our bad episodes. Oh, wait. We don't have them.
0.
All right? Woo! Woo! Anyway, and also one of my favorite directors, John Carpenter.
Oh, sick.
So, check out Cigarette Burns, which is directed by John Carpenter. Stars Norman Reedus, and it's weird as fuck.
All right, I'm into it. You're starting to coerce me here. I might give this the old college try.
Now, number 2, Ben. Come on now. This one is a little bit wackier, a little bit sillier sometimes.
I like things that are silly. I like things that are nice, though.
All in all, fucking awesome. Tales from the Crypt.
Now, Tales from the Crypt, I always remember seeing advertisements for in like Wizard magazine and on the backs of some of my comics and stuff like this. But of course, I was absolutely verboten from watching that as a kid. That had the old Crypt Keeper fella, right?
It did. It had the Crypt Keeper who, okay, Tales from the Crypt actually, comes from the EC Comics. Tales from the Crypt, and then there were a bunch of other like horror titles that were turned into horror anthologies in England by I can't remember the name of the company. But there is a Tales from the Crypt anthology from 76 or so.
Okay.
Which is good. It's well worth watching, but they're not exactly fully connected. The Crypt Keeper is more comical, and he always has a little bit of a pun to go with each of the stories, so there's that fun. And then it also sometimes has a more campy quality, but it does have some really good, serious, like brutal episodes directed by some really good people. And it has an opening theme by Danny Elfman that will be stuck in your head the rest of your life.
Oh shit, that's not bad.
Yeah, some of the episodes were directed by Tom Holland, who did Fright Night, Mary Lambert, who did Pet Sematary, Richard Donner, who we all know, Robert Zemeckis, also big deal.
Yeah.
Episodes were also directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What?
Arnold Schwarzenegger directed the episode, and he was in that episode. Anybody you can think of from the 90s, like early to mid 90s, who could have been in a television show was in Tales from the Crypt. Like everybody was in it.
Right.
And
I always understood that had a pretty stacked cast.
Yeah. And this is the thing, is that sometimes they were big actors already, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. A lot of times though, they were up and coming actors who maybe this was their first role. And this is the interesting thing that I really love about horror anthology series, is that you'll see this throughout. If you go back to the Twilight Zone and stuff like that, you'll see that what happens is, because TV's considered cheap, is considered throwaway, they a lot of times don't go for the big names, they go for value. They go for the guy who comes in and has a good audition, or the actress who obviously gets the role. And so you get some good acting, but also sometimes you get some shit acting.
Okay.
But one episode I can recommend that is Tim Roth pre-Reservoir Dogs.
Oh!
And we'll show you that Tim Roth has always been fucking awesome.
Really?
Is an episode called Easel Kill Ya. And he plays an artist who has a very morbid discovery that is fucking awesome.
That sounds pretty cool. Now I'm getting kind of interested in this. I think it's on Shudder, isn't it?
I I don't think Tales from the Crypt is on Shudder.
Okay.
You know what? I'm recommending Tales from the Crypt to you, and I'm not even sure if it's anywhere for streaming.
Okay.
Anyway, I also recommend an episode called Abracadaver, which has Beau Bridges in it, and it's really unique. Like, it'll stick with you for a long time. I remember having nightmares about it as a child.
I mean, that sounds pretty good. I'm getting kind of interested in this stuff, Steve. I might start feeling a little bit vulnerable, a little bit like a mortal.
Yeah. And as you do this, I'm positioning my rogue behind you to stab you in the back.
Oh, I gotta tighten up my mithril.
Now, listen, Ben, this third one, I'm not doing this just because it's a good transition.
Steven, I'm doing it. No, I'm not interested. I do not want to see this.
Tales from the Darkside, Ben.
God damn.
You're gonna watch it and you're gonna like it.
I walked right into it. Shit.
All right, so Tales from the Darkside is the product of George Romero's Creepshow, which is a great horror anthology. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've seen it. It's awesome.
I love the second one too. The second one's awesome.
Yes, they're both great. Guess what? Tales from the Darkside is the Creepshow television show.
Why didn't they call it Creepshow?
Because Warner Brothers had to write the Creepshow, and the people that wanted to make the television show didn't want to work with Warner Brothers. So, they just gave it a different title and went with the same sort of idea of using really good horror short stories, giving them life. So you get, in Tales from the Darkside, there are episodes that are based on short stories by Stephen King. There are a number of those.
I've heard of him.
An episode co-written by George Romero. Mm-hmm. Episodes based on short stories by Clive Barker and Harlan Ellison. Ooh. And novelist Michael McDowell, who wrote 2 of the segments in the movie that we'll talk about later. And this show... This is interesting because you see this transition, I'm going to get maybe super boring right now, but I love TV and I really study like the people involved with the production. I always have. I've always watched the credits to my favorite shows.
Who's your favorite grip, Steve?
Oh man, my favorite grip, Carrie Snodgrass. That guy knows.
He knows how to grip, boy.
Anyway, so I've paid attention to producers' names, directors' names, etc. throughout in television, and for a long time, that wasn't important to anybody. Like, television was throwaway shit, because there were 6 channels you could choose from. You watch what we give you. Yeah. Like, the end.
There's not really competition even at that point.
Yeah, that's why back then 22 million people are tuning in to watch a show that you watch now, and you're like, this is fucking terrible. Yeah. This is terrible. So this anthology series is before Tales from the Crypt. It's it comes before the revival of Twilight Zone that happened in the mid 80s. It comes at a time when television is still just throwaway shit and nobody's really thinking of it as art. And so all of these people are getting a chance to direct that wouldn't have got a chance otherwise. So there are several episodes directed by Tom Savini. An episode directed by Jodie Foster. An episode directed by Bob Balaban. An episode directed by the director of the movie. There are actually 8 episodes directed by the director of the movie, John Harrison, who before this was really just, he did some music videos. And he was an assistant director to George Romero.
Dang, dude. They got some damn qualified personnel on staff here.
Yeah, so this is like they're taking they're taking short stories that they know are going to work because they know people like them, and then they're just putting them on TV. And there's so many actors that either got their start or were like early on in Tales from the Darkside. Christian Slater, who's in the movie, was in an episode called A Case of the Stubborns, which is great.
Man, that sound corny.
It will remind, I don't know if you've ever seen, what was that Dan Aykroyd that Dan Aykroyd Chevy Chase movie where there were a lot of prosthetics? You know what I'm talking about? Oh. It was really gross. I can't remember. My wife would smack me because she talks about that movie sometimes, and it's disgusting. Anyway, it looks like that. Like the prosthetics are kind of disgusting, but like intentionally so. And like, Christian Slater is Christian Slater, like as a young kid, and it's like, it's interesting because Christian Slater is a very charming guy. He has this automatically charming face, but like, it's almost like every line he's just smiling, like I'm on TV. Like,
look at me now.
Yeah, but it also has you know, like there's so many great episodes with great actors in them. One of the episodes I would recommend highly is Halloween Candy, which is directed by Tom Savini.
I mean, you have me at Savini, you know?
Yeah. The makeup effects are great.
Obviously.
It gets real weird. It gets real strange. And also it's a Halloween tale, so that's fun.
I mean, you're saying a lot of things that I like. You're saying Savini, and you're saying Halloween, and you're saying weird.
The last one I'm gonna recommend though is super weird and gross, and the makeup effects are amazing, and it's co-written by George Romero, and it stars William Hickey, who is the guy with the disgusting voice from the movie we watched today.
Oh yeah.
And it's weird as hell. It's called The Circus. It's so weird. I highly recommend checking out Tales from the Darkside. It's on Shudder, all 4 seasons. I think a few episodes aren't in there for some reason.
Okay.
Not sure why, but it's great. Like it's one of those that because it has 80s production 80s television production values. It's one of those to turn on and maybe do something else while it's on.
Right.
Maybe just look over every once in a while, and you'll see some great makeup effects. But the stories are great. The acting is good. The directing is good. It's such a good horror anthology series.
You've got me. I've got to admit, Steve.
Stab him in the heart, Frodo.
No. You've got me a little bit interested. You may have softened my cold black Nordic heart into perhaps wanting to check out a horror anthology series on the television. You may have just gotten me. You may have just sold me.
You know what, guys? I'm gonna reveal a little truth. I don't think it was that hard. I feel like Ben may have wanted to watch them anyway.
Oh, you can. Oh, maybe.
And then he died.
R.I.P.
So let's talk about this damn movie.
This damn Tales from the Dark Stuff, whatever it is.
Tales from the Dark Stuff.
So I watched this movie for the first time a couple of years ago, and I had seen it on, I'd seen the title on Netflix, and I didn't know anything about it, and I just assumed it was probably some cheesy, corny, cheap horror sort of thing. So I watched kind of every other, halfway decent horror flick they had on Netflix at the time, and then one night I was at the bottom of the barrel, and I was like, well,
just scraping around.
Yeah, exactly, just dredging. And I was like, all right, let's go ahead and check this out. And I was very impressed. Maybe because I went in with zero expectations or whatever, but I had a blast watching this movie, and I've watched it another time since then, and then I watched it again before we did our podcast here. So not my first time, but still a pretty recently new movie to me.
It's just I really like it. It's fun. It's unpretentious. It has good makeup effects. It has interesting directorial choices, especially in the Cat from Hell segment. The casting is really cool. Like Debbie Harry's in it.
The cast is stacked. There are so many fantastic actors and actresses in this movie.
Steve Buscemi, Julianne Moore, like a ton of people. Ray Don Chong,
the Gargoyle.
Yeah, and the Gargoyle. Oh man,
what a career that Gargoyle had.
There are 3 tales in this. They're based on short stories. One more loosely based on a short story, but Lot number 249 is based on a short story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Oh, okay. That makes sense because that one does have more of an old-timey kind of feel about it.
And I want to talk about that because there's some interesting. It's a little uneven.
Steven, I refuse. Moving on.
Oh, okay. Cat from Hell, directed, which was written a short story by Stephen King. Though I read he like wrote the introduction to the story for a magazine and then had readers submit what they think should happen, and then he finished the story. So that's interesting. Yeah. And then Lover's Vow, which is based on Lafcadio Hearn's version of the traditional Japanese tale of the Yakiona.
You don't say. I think I had one of those for lunch yesterday.
Yeah, they're delicious. A Yakiona?
And
with a little fudge?
Oh, yeah, well, maybe a lot. And they're all three of these stories are bound together by a framing device, which is one of those things that, like, I love in a lot of these old school horror movies. I really love the framing device that a lot of these anthologies have, where there's sort of a central storyline that sort of weaves in and out that puts the whole thing together. And in this case, the framing device is a story about a young boy who has been captured by the singer of Blondie, who wants to cook him in an oven and eat him. And basically, he's given a book of tales from the Darkside. And he's like, no, wait, don't cook me. I just read this story, and I'm going to tell you about it. And she's like, okay, I'm chopping carrots, and I got a heart of glass and stuff like that. So
yeah, she's like, call me on the telephone, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, does she have a character name, or is she playing Debbie Harry?
I don't know, but there's a lot of interesting stuff about that because, I only really noticed it this time through, but at the first of the movie, it shows her like driving through the town, and she's like waving hi to the priest and stuff like this. And then
she's this interesting suburban witch. It's like everybody knows her.
Yeah, and then she's like on the phone with her friends and stuff, being like, "Oh yeah, bring champagne, come over for dinner." So I guess she has a whole bunch of friends that were planning on eating a kid that night.
Well, I mean, it's Hollywood, Ben.
They do that kind of thing.
Yeah, they, not me.
Oh.
Anyway, kids, delicious. So,
moving on.
The kid is Matthew Lawrence. Whoa, brother of Joey Lawrence. So the first tale kicks off like he has this book that is called Tales from the Darkside that she said was her favorite book as a child, and so he's trying to delay being cooked to be eaten by the Hollywood elite and Debbie Harry. And he starts telling her this story, which is called Lot 249. And it's like the basic tale of Lot 249 is a guy gets a mummy and uses it to get revenge on the people who have wronged him.
Right.
Yeah, the real tale of Lot 249, though, is, as you texted me the other day, that Steve Buscemi is a reverse vampire.
Yes, this is something that is well known because Steve Buscemi has actually never looked young.
No, he's never looked young. He's always looked the exact same, and that's why it's actually, really perfect casting in this role, because the thing is that Christian Slater, Robert Sedgwick, and Julianne Moore, they're in a modern world. Like, whenever you see them in this segment of the movie, they're in this modern world. Every time it shows Steve Buscemi, it's like he's in a Victorian world. Like he lives. They even refer to his place where he stays as his rooms. Like he's Sherlock Holmes or something.
Yeah.
Like, my rooms. Your fucking apartment. It's your apartment. That's what it's called. It's called an apartment.
I wonder with Steve Buscemi if there's sort of like an inverted Dorian Gray scenario going on somewhere where he has this portrait that is just like young and beautiful. Like, he looks from the portrait to himself in the mirror and he's like, God damn it.
He, unlike Dorian Gray, he lives this super virtuous life, and no matter what he does, he doesn't look any better, but his portrait always looks great.
Yeah, he's like, I'm doing this shit wrong. I can't figure it out.
All right, now let's be fair. This is a 9/11 hero. I don't know if you know this, but He was a firefighter when he lived in New York, and then after 9/11 went back to his old fire department and volunteered for like a number of days straight, doing 12-hour shifts.
Jesus.
Helping to sort through the rubble. So
that's badass.
Not only is he an amazing actor, great comedic actor, also great director. He's directed a ton of great television, including an episode of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Damn.
He's also great guy. So way to go.
I mean, talk about a guy that has just played a countless number of unforgettable fucking characters, dude. He is the shit, man.
Scroll through his IMDb and it's just like, wait, what? Like, it's just constant. He is constantly working and in so much good stuff.
There's also a great, like, you know, like Tumblr feed or something that you can find of like other people, especially actresses, with Steve Buscemi's eyes photoshopped onto them. And it's the best. It's the best, dude.
So Christian Slater's in this, and this is early in his career. This is after Heathers, but before like Pump Up the Volume and Young Guns 2 and stuff. This is a period where like Christian Slater, you know, was an it boy. You know, like he was getting a ton of great roles. Christian Slater is awesome.
Shit, yeah, he is. True romance, dude. That's all you gotta know.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say in the opening, when there's this sort of long tracking shot of him and Robert Tedrick, I don't really know their names. I think Andy and Lee. They're walking and they're sort of doing the exposition, setting up the fact that Lee got this prestigious fellowship so he can go travel Europe by cheating and having his girlfriend Julianne Moore write his essay. And Julianne Moore also, in order to make sure he got the fellowship, stole something from the museum and made it look like Bellingham is the Victorian character with the... His name is like they call him Bellingham. Like, seriously, if you read this short story, I don't even know how this is an adaptation. Like, I guess it's an adaptation because you took it from short story format and put it in screenplay format. But like, it's basically just the short story with a different ending tacked on. But the thing is that the way that the characters speak, other than Bellingham, is all modern.
Totally.
And they're always doing like interesting modern things, like, you know, eating Cool Ranch Doritos and watching a basketball game or whatever,
playing NBA Jam and stuff like that.
Yeah, while Bellingham is off, you know, practicing his calligraphy or whatever it is he's doing.
He's on Angel Fire and shit.
Yeah. Just like they were in the 1890s. Angel Fire.
And so he's a curator of sorts, and he gets this sarcophagus. He gets this mummy, right?
Yeah, and we get a ton of like Bellingham being a prick about shit he knows about mummies and stuff.
Yeah.
it's like whatever. But then there's a scroll, and the scroll
like awakens the mummy or whatever, right?
Yeah, he says he can't read it at the time, but later when he's alone, he reads it. It awakens the mummy. The mummy goes to Lee's place and removes his brain with a coat hanger. There's like I don't know, like, there's a lot of comedy in this movie, and I think one of the things that's really comedic is the shot where the mummy is in Lee's apartment, and we get a shot of the mummy, like, with his back to a bookcase, like he's hiding behind the bookcase, and he's like disassembling a coat hanger.
Let me just untwist this like, here. This should do that trick.
Yeah, like, how would a mummy know what the fuck a coat hanger is? But whatever. That's funny.
It's because that mummy in life was an abortion doctor.
Shit, y'all. You got to fund Planned Parenthood. Hey, Texas, how's defunding Planned Parenthood going for you? You had higher teen pregnancies than the rest of the country.
Yeah, you fucking
and
dickhead.
More abortions.
They
had more
stupid,
abortions.
Dude. It's so stupid.
You defund Planned Parenthood and you get more abortion. You dumb fucks.
Fucking idiots, man. You know, it pisses me off, dude. So bad. Fucking fund Planned Parenthood people.
Yeah, for real. There are other reasons.
Yeah.
To fund Planned Parenthood.
Keep these mummies from doing back alley abortions with coat hangers.
That's what I've been talking about. Now, Ben, I actually wanted to talk about this. Mummies, scary?
I mean, okay, I've never met one, so I don't know. But I'll put it this way. You know, I only realized how scary zombies could really be when I attended my first, like, open casket funeral, which is a thing that is weirdly common in the South.
Yeah, no, every funeral I've ever been to is open casket.
Yeah, and whenever you go there and you're, like, standing next to a dead body that's laying there asleep, it just really it dawned on me how fucking scary it would be if that thing sat up. So, in a way, you know, a mummy is kind of the same deal, really. I mean, it is a reanimated corpse, so I think that it could be, really. I don't think that we've had a really scary mummy movie yet.
No.
I've heard that the new one with Tom Cruise is horrifyingly awful, is what I've heard, but I don't think that we've really had like a scary mummy movie. I think that the kills that the mummy does in this movie are easily the coolest part, because the way that the mummy chooses to kill the people are ways that mummies are treated in terms of the way that they're preserved and embalmed and stuff. So like you said, he pulls the one guy's brains out through his nose, which is the kind of one of the steps of removing the organs from a corpse for the embalming process. And then like Julianne Moore, whenever he kills Julianne Moore, that one's brutal, because like he cuts her open and then like stuffs flowers into her open wound,
flowers in her
while she's still alive. It's like brutal. I thought that was a really cool kill. I like that he's doing what he knows. He's like, I know what these people did to me.
Mm-hmm. Now that's this is interesting because there is a mummy movie that I do really like. It's called The Mummy, and it stars Brendan Fraser.
That's a fun fucking movie.
It's a fun movie.
I just watched that this
Rachel
year.
Weisz, like, it's so good.
Yeah.
And that starts with a live mummification. Do you think maybe they got the idea for that from this?
That could be.
Like, I don't know enough about mummies. And again, I have taught a class on the undead, and I just skipped talking about mummies, really. Like, I talked about it in the intro just to sort of set up the idea of the undead and why people might think, like, oh, a corpse might come back to life. But mummies are just boring to me in a real way. I love Egyptology. I love all of that interesting idea of like Egyptian magic and stuff like that. But in movies, it's just rarely played out well. The Mummy is the exception. Like it's a real good movie.
I like that the kind of conclusion here is that Brendan Fraser sort of hacks the mummy up with an electric carving knife.
Oh, Christian Slater, you mean?
Oh, what did I say?
You said Brendan Fraser. Yeah, he said Brendan Fraser. He was just like, guys, I got this. Don't worry. Encino Man.
He swung in like George of the Jungle and took care of business.
Yeah. Monkey Bone. Blast from the Past. We're just naming Brendan Fraser titles.
I love Blast from the Past so much, dude.
Blast from the Past is great. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, so Julianne Moore gets killed, and then Andy basically figures out that Bellingham is doing this, and he it's pretty brutal. Ties Bellingham up to a chair, and he's gonna burn him to death.
Yeah.
And then Bellingham like says the spell to bring the mummy back to life, and Andy just fucking deals with it the exact way you deal with a mummy, which is you move slow and there's only one of you. I'll chop you into bits and throw you in the fire.
He's pretty calm about it.
Yeah, he's not bothered by it at all. And that's the thing, is that like that's always gonna be the problem for a mummy, like unless you do like they did in The Mummy, where they come back to life like full flesh and they have special like magic powers. They're not scary because one zombie isn't scary. It's disturbing. It will make you question your reality and everything you know if you see a zombie coming at you. But you can take one zombie.
The threat comes in the numbers.
Yeah. So one mummy, not scary, and this does really great at like showing that it's like, oh, how's a mummy scary? Like a mummy has to sneak up on you, otherwise you got it.
Yeah, exactly. You can pretty much deal with it. I found this segment overall like I don't know, man. And now that you point out that it was based on an old-timey story, it definitely makes more sense because it feels like a story that was adapted from a Victorian, literature era kind of story. Because I find it to have a lot of needless character detail. Like, there's a lot of stuff about the characters that I just don't fucking care about at all. I don't remember really any of the characters, nor did I feel any sort of sympathy or empathy towards them. So I don't. I mean, Christian Bale does a great. Fuck me, Christian Bale. Why can't I get his name right? When Batman showed up, it was pretty sick.
Yeah, Batman showed up. That would be awesome. See, again, if Brendan Fraser as his character in The Mummy and Christian Bale as Batman showed up, and they were like, "We'll handle this."
This would have been a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely. But otherwise, yeah, it's just slow and not very scary.
Yeah, but the kills are good. It's worth watching for the kills. I'll put it that way. And again, ultimately, this is what, maybe 25 minutes or something like that. It's like as long as episode of Friends or something. So
I think it's a good setup. I think when you're dealing with an anthology, like a lot of anthologies now, which I love ABCs of Death. I love VHS. Southbound was good. Like, there are a bunch of really great horror anthologies that have come out, but some of them will have a sort of frame tale, and some of them will have a sort of like logic to the way that the stuff progresses, but mostly it's just short films thrown together. And I think what this does is it sets up like, oh, okay, like, we see like this suburban witch and this cute little kid eating cookies, and it seems kind of jokey. And the first tale isn't really scary, though, like, it's well done, it's just not scary. So it kind of sets you up to be like, oh, well, this isn't gonna be too bad. Which it isn't, but I think once we get to the third story, it's like such a surprise what happens.
Yeah, it eases you in pretty smooth, really, with that first one. Because like you said, it's really not that scary or that horrific at all. No. So it kind of makes you think you're in for a pretty easy ride.
Yeah, and then the second one, it starts up kind of jokey too. I mean, the first thing we see is David Johansen. I'm already like, what? Yeah. Why is the lead singer of the New York Dolls starring in this segment? Because I've seen him in other stuff. He's in Scrooged. He's in Hulk Hogan movie. He's in that Hulk Hogan movie. What else is he in? He's in Scrooged in that Hulk Hogan movie. That's as far as I understand.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I know from is the taxi driver in Scrooged. Yeah.
Yeah. So seeing that immediately, I'm like, oh, well, this isn't going to be very serious.
What's the name of the second sequence? Is it the Evil Cat or something like that?
Or Cat from Hell.
Cat from Hell. Okay.
Yeah. But he arrives at this huge mansion, and the person who comes out of the mansion is William Hickey. Now, you probably, listeners probably would be like, I don't know William Hickey, right off the top of your head. But if you hear his voice, you immediately know William Hickey.
Well, let's just call him by his real name, Uncle Lewis from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, he's Uncle Lewis from National Lampoon. He's from Nightmare Before Christmas. He's the doctor.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so in the short story, he's a guy who has hired this hitman, our New York Dolls fella there, to come in
kill
for
a cat.
Yeah, to come in for a job. And at first the guy thinks he's just in for a job to kill somebody, and then he finds out that it's this cat that lives in the mansion that he's trying to kill. And Uncle Lewis gives this backstory about him living there with his sisters, right?
He lives with his sister, his sister's friend, and their butler.
That's right. They're rich and wealthy and bored and just basically...
Yeah, and he's the head of a pharmaceutical company that sells something called Compound G, which he refers to it as a painkiller, tranquilizer, and hallucinogen in one, and that it's a heart medicine.
You need all that when you got heart problems.
Yeah, you know what helps if you got heart problems is just fucking vivid hallucination.
Tripping balls.
I want to be walking around a corner and being like, is that shadow a person Is it a demon? Is it perhaps a cat?
Then you go, this is doing my heart so much good.
Yeah, so he says basically that the pharmaceutical company killed like 5,000 cats. They used cats to test Compound G, and they killed like 5,000 cats, and he believes this cat is here to get revenge for those 5,000 cats.
Because it like made his sister fall down the stairs, and it ended up killing the butler some way and killing her sister's friend some other way. So this cat's killing all of them, and he wants the cat dead before the cat kills him.
The cat can kill you in two ways. The cat can kill you by just complete coincidence.
Yeah.
Like, you're in a precarious position and the cat takes advantage. Or it will just attack your face like a face hugger and choke you to death.
That can happen. That can happen. And you know, the thing is like we are cat sitting for my neighbors right now. We're not cat people.
Oh, yeah.
We're dog people, but our neighbors are out of town, so I'm going over there every day to, feed their cat and brush it and stuff like this. So
yeah.
Made me a little uneasy to see Bella today. I was like, hang on now, keep your distance now. It just showed me his butthole. That's what cats always do.
I'm what you call in the cat people, dog people world a switch.
Look out. You're one of fence sitters.
I've always had dogs growing up, but I did have a couple cats. And then I got to know friends' cats, and I was just like, I like cats too. I don't see what the problem is. Why can't you like both?
There's shit in a box in the house, Steve.
That's true, but you know what you don't have to do is worry about that shit. Like, it's in the house in that box. Dogs, if you don't take them out, will shit wherever.
It's true. Then you got the landmine scenario out there in the yard.
But I mean, again, I'm not gonna argue that. Yeah, that is gross. It's real gross. Cats are fine for me. I think it's interesting because I understand that some people not only are just not cat people, but they actively dislike cats.
It's true. I wouldn't say that I'm that guy. I love an animal.
What this segment really has going for it, though, is the direction.
Yeah, it's cool. It almost has this like film noir kind of vibe to it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's really great. Like, you're getting the hitman character. He's like this New York tough type. David Johansen is fine. William Hickey, he's like, he brings him in for this mysterious sort of job. It seems almost like a joke, but it turns out to be way more than it is. But you also get these really great shots from the cat's point of view. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that are cool. Like they're in black and white, but like tinged on the edges with purple, and the cat moves like a cat, but like, fast, and it knows what it's doing. Instead of being like a cat where it's like, you have no idea what it's doing. This cat obviously has a plan. Like, it's trying to take these people out.
And the movie is just, or the segment is basically just him alone all night in the mansion trying to get this cat. The cat's kind of outwitting him, and he's shooting directly at it with a laser sight and missing his shots, and he says he's never botched a job and all this stuff. So at first he's very skeptical about the whole situation and doesn't believe any of it, but just wants to kill this cat and get his money and get the job done and leave. But yeah, he starts kind of becoming a believer, I suppose you could say. This movie, or this segment of the movie, is so... I mean, it's pretty calm. There's not really necessarily a lot of blood and gore or anything nuts until the cat finally fucking kills the hitman. They kind of have a little cat and mouse game there. And
it is so fucking awesome.
I remember the first time that I watched it, I was like, I cannot fucking believe what I'm seeing. Because the way the cat kills him is it literally jumps down his throat.
Yeah. It climbs into his fucking guts and kills him.
It's so disturbing, dude. Like, as it's happening, the special effects for that are really great because they obviously made some prosthetics for his face and stuff of like his mouth and his jaw are like distending so that way a cat can fit in there. And man, the sounds that he's making and the way he's like...
They're so gross.
He's like choking and grabbing at his neck and kind of doubling over like he's gagging and stuff. It's disgusting. Like, it's not only just cool special effects and a unique kill for a movie, it's disgusting because you really genuinely. I don't know, man. You can see all the wet fur from the cat, and you imagine the feel of that going down your throat, and this cat clawing down your throat, and you gagging on it and stuff. It's fucking disgusting. Way disturbing. Way disturbing.
This is like this movie is a good example of a director seeing a project almost like a fight with the audience, where he's like drawing you in and making you feel comfortable and making you feel safe, and then he fucking punches you in the mouth.
Yeah.
Suddenly a cat crawls down a man's throat into his guts and kills him.
And you see it distend his belly and stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh god, dude.
Yeah, and
it's long too. It's a long scene of him getting, of this cat. And then we see the cat. We see the cat come out too, which is great because you can tell that's a real cat coming out of the prosthetic. It's
like
awesome.
There's no way that's a puppet. And you see the cat come out and then basically kills William Hickey by him having a heart attack, which is again like it's so interesting. The cat's ways of killing are just pure coincidence, smothering the shit out of you, or climbing into your guts.
Yeah.
Like
he's got a couple of methods of disposal depending on his mood that day.
So yeah, like it's real good because like the story, and this one was written by George Romero. The screenplay was the original short stories by Stephen King. And it's
Dream
obvious
team.
it's obvious it's coming from two people who know what the fuck they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the direction is great. Again, like this is his first movie. He mostly directed television, and he does a great job with this. This is a real good way, I would think, to move from television directing into a movie where you're basically directing 3 television episodes.
Yeah, totally.
And a short wraparound story.
I think that segment is really, really cool because it isn't the most action-packed thing in the world. You're not going to be at the edge of your seat.
Oh, no.
But then it makes it so much more rewarding whenever that kill happens because it yanks the rug out from under your feet really hard because it'll blow your hair back. It's fucking really, really cool. And then we get into the third segment. What's the third segment called?
Third segment's called Lover's Vow. And Ben, I've had 2 hallucinatory dreams caused by a fever in my life, and both of them involved horror movies. The first one involved Freddy Krueger. I talked about it on the Nightmare on Elm Street episode.
Yeah.
The second one involved this segment.
No way. Really?
Yeah. I don't know how to describe this because I felt like I didn't fall asleep, but then woke up. And when I woke up, this story was like all I could think of. Like I couldn't think of anything, and I just kept seeing the gargoyle and seeing everything happening.
Whoa.
And like it was so weird, and I like was sweating like crazy, and this was just stuck in my head. And so this story has always been stuck in my head as this like I don't know what, like it's not a fright I have. I mean, I guess what the fear that's displayed in this is that if you fully reveal yourself to your partner, they're going to not only reject you, but be so angered by that they'll reveal themselves to be a monster.
Right.
And I've actually had that happen in my life.
Holy shit.
Somewhat. Yeah, but again, this didn't happen before I had the fever dream. So this has apparently always been a fear.
I mean, listen, I tried telling you. I said, look, this girl you're seeing, have you seen the wings on this bitch?
And I said, Ben, all the better to fly with.
I said, no. That's a gargoyle, Steve. I said, Steve, that's a gargoyle.
A gargoyle. No, actually, yeah, I think we've all maybe experienced something like it, and we all have this fear of rejection, but we also have the biggest fear isn't just that we'll be rejected, it's that we will reveal ourselves and be rejected, but that also that rejection will go further, like that it will have further consequences. Like if you say to your significant other, like you reveal some horrible past secret, like, oh, my father raped me, or like, and again, I'm not making light of that.
Sure.
That is, but that's the type of thing I'm thinking of, because that's the type of secret he reveals. Like, I witnessed a murder and said nothing.
Right. Yeah. Guilty conscience kind of stuff.
Yeah, you reveal that, and then that person not only doesn't accept it well, but is also like, like, how dare you have that in your past?
Right.
And then you lose everything. So, like, this
one definitely has the most depth of character, and I think, significance of any of them for sure.
Yeah, and it comes from a Japanese tale. The thing is that this is a great adaptation by Michael McDowell. The original Japanese tale is more about it's something called a snow girl, where there's this basically ethereal, beautiful, delicate girl who appears to a person, and a man, and the man falls in love with her, and she's like, I will be with you, but you can never ask about this or that, or you can never tell this or that. And then the person always does, and then the snow girl melts or like disappears or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's the idea, is that the person you're with, again, is going to be so delicate that they can't accept the truth of who you are. So there is a ton of depth to this, that it's like, we went from interesting, fun, Poppy, it's Debbie Harry, and cute little Matthew Lawrence, and some cookies and tales, to now we're talking about like real deep issue shit. So like, I think this is just a great demonstration of this production all coming together to create this tale that lulls you into a sense of security, and then like really just undermines everything at your core.
I'm glad that they put this as the third one. I feel like if they would have put this first or second,
it wouldn't
and
have
then followed this up with one of the other ones, it definitely would not have worked. It would have been a real letdown, because none of those other two stories could follow this one up. Basically, a guy that's having trouble in his career witnesses a murder in an alleyway by this fucking gargoyle. I keep saying gargoyle. I think that's funny. Gargoyle.
It is fun. I want Argyle socks with gargoyles on them. Get to it, listeners.
Argyle Gargoyle is a band that I should start.
Oh, man. God, I can imagine. Okay, Argyle Gargoyle. I mean, we're coming back around to the 90s, Ben. Like, look at fashion, look at politics, look at everything that's coming around. Argyle Gargoyle sounds like a 90s alternative band.
Like, maybe we're like a heavy ska band.
Oh man, there we go. Get David Johansen in to produce.
Yeah. This guy witnesses this gargoyle kill this guy, and then the gargoyle is like, you cannot say anything about me. You will never mention me. You'll never say you saw me. Nothing. You didn't see shit.
I love this setup. Because that's exactly what it is. It's like, you didn't see shit. You didn't see nothing. And it's like the gargoyle doesn't talk like that. In fact, the gargoyle talks like Splinter from the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Like, it sounds like the same voice.
Oh, and shit, it does.
The gargoyle also makes a funny.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he promises and the gargoyle says, cross of your heart, and then scratches his heart? And then disappears.
That's an old gargoyle joke. It's kind of played out.
Yeah. Now, okay, I just want to bore everybody or make somebody go, that's interesting. A gargoyle, when we're talking about architectural features, gargoyles have an interesting past. One of them is that predominantly the gargoyle in older churches, and even more like noticeably in Ireland and England, older churches, the gargoyle was a vagina. It wasn't, it was just a straight vagina. It's called a Sheela-na-gig in Ireland and England. They also existed in northern Spain and southern France. In northern Spain and southern France, they're even more obviously just vaginas. Like, that's all they are. And a gargoyle as an architectural feature actually doesn't describe what we think of as a gargoyle quite as much, because they were supposed to represent these sort of, I mean, later they became these sort of ugly heads that were supposed to represent vaginas, but they're also supposed to drain water from the what are those called?
Like a basin
gutters.
system. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the gutters of the roof. Like the drain is supposed to be the gargoyle head. Mm-hmm. So when we think of like the statuesque sort of gargoyle, those are actually called grotesques.
It makes me really rethink the animated Gargoyles series.
Yes!
If they were actually all just vaginas instead.
They're vaginas. Yeah. Like, that's what it's supposed to represent. It's supposed to scare things away. Like, the older, like, that would have meant, like, at a certain point in Christianity's development in Western Europe, the vagina was considered a powerful thing.
Sure.
Like, a vulva was powerful. It scared the demons away.
Mm-hmm.
But as it became more and more dominated by the church in Rome, it became more and more patriarchal, and a vagina became a scary demon face.
These sons of bitches.
Yeah. And that's really interesting to me. Like,
I did not know that was the evolution of the gargoyle and what we think of.
Yeah. And I'm not going to be one of those assholes who's like, oh, it's Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein. I'm not going to say, this is a grotesque, not a gargoyle. No, we call that a gargoyle now. We call Frankenstein's monster Frankenstein now. And let's just be honest. Frankenstein created him. What the fuck is his last name going to be?
Yeah.
It's Frankenstein. And he didn't give him a first name, so his goddamn name is Frankenstein. Just because Mary Shelley only called him Creature doesn't mean I have to stick to your get off my lawn, I'm an old person, I only stick to the oldest thing I know type of weird ideas.
Yeah, leave us alone, Mom.
God damn it. Bill Gates Jr., get out of here.
That's really interesting. I did not know about all that stuff.
Yeah, I think though what we see here, this is just a perfect encapsulation of what a gargoyle would be if it was alive.
It looks like so badass. It's like reptilian,
it's so good.
And lizard-like, and it has these huge leathery wings, slimy looking.
The first shot with like the street light behind it, so you can't really see it entirely, but it's just like you see it's big. It's got this huge wingspan, and it actually kind of looks like that first shot of the Pazuzu statue in The Exorcist.
Yeah,
where
very
the
much
sun
so.
is coming up behind it. Yeah.
And basically, this guy kind of, that night that he meets the gargoyle and stuff, he also meets this girl, and he tries to save her, and they end up...
Radon Chong.
Who's that?
Radon Chong. That's the girl. She's great. She's very pretty.
Now, basically, he ends up hooking up with her, and they end up actually starting a long and meaningful relationship. But he's haunted by this secret that he has to keep that this gargoyle told him to never talk about and stuff. And basically, they have kids together and stuff. And then one day, I guess he thinks that the smoke has cleared. He's like, wow, I've made it this far away from the actual incident and stuff. It's probably safe to talk about this thing that's been haunting me forever. And he shows her this statue that he made, because he's an artist. He shows her the statue that he made of the gargoyle. And he's like, I saw this thing that night. And, her expression as she's telling this stuff is just this like, oh no, like, no, you shouldn't be telling me this stuff. And then that's exactly what she says. She's like, you weren't supposed to tell anybody. And you can, you can tell she's like super upset about it. And then, man, we get this transformation scene.
Yeah, it's like The Howling, like brutal, like ripping out of the skin.
Oh man, just her hands, the gargoyle hands, like blowing up out of her hands and stuff. Incredible practical special effects for that transformation scene. Again, it's totally worth watching just to see that transformation scene. It's fucking amazing. There's that one shot in there. I can't remember what it is, but I can't remember what her dialogue is, but it's like a shot of just her head, and she looks totally normal, just like she has the whole movie. And she's like, I begged you not to say a word about it or whatever. And then she just like pulls her own scalp off.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing, dude.
So this ending is super bleak, and the kids turn into gargoyles.
Now that scene where she's changing and stuff, and he's like, "But what about the kids?" And then he looks over at the doorway, and there's the two little kid gargoyles, and they're like, "Hey, we're gargoyles too, I guess."
Oh, also, by the way, we're gargoyles.
But they're like kind of small, dude. They're like kind of small and like kind of cute, but they're still kind of scary looking. It kind of did make me laugh a little bit. They did seem a little, because they're not really that terrifying looking.
No, they aren't. They look like if somebody made sympathetic gremlins. Like, it's just like, yeah, you fed us after midnight. Now we look horrendous.
And I love too that, at the end there, she as the gargoyle like scoops the kids up and flies away through the skylight there. I want there to be like a sitcom about this family of this single mom gargoyle and her two kids, raising them in the big city and stuff.
You know what? Oh, how about this? Instead of raising them in the big city, she goes back to small town America.
Oh.
And there's a lot of conflict there. Are they going to accept her as a gargoyle? Also, a working woman in the 80s? Oh, wait, this is the 90s.
She went off to the big city, got herself turned into one of them gargoyles.
That's what happens to you. They give you the AIDS and you turn into a gargoyle.
Like, I really just want to see that spin off into its own series. I think that would be a lot of fun.
What about My Two Gargoyles?
Oh, it'd be adorable.
Yeah.
And so then basically at the end of that story there, we go back to our framing device where the kid, young Joey Lawrence, let's just call him Joey Lawrence, he tricks the woman into falling back on those needles, and he breaks out of his cage there and shoves her into the oven.
Breaks off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
Also, very envious of the depth of that oven that Debbie Harry has. That is an oven that you could line up two pizzas, not stacked vertically, but back to back in that thing.
You know, if you want that type of oven, Ben, you have to say, and you have to whisper it over the phone, I'm looking for an oven to cook a kid.
Oh, can you get that from like Sears and Roebuck?
Oh, yeah. No, Sears, absolutely.
And then the very last shot of the movie is that kind of breaking the fourth wall thing where he looks at the camera and he eats a cookie, and what the fuck does he say?
He says, I love a happy ending, which is, it's good. Like, I mean, it's a good little, like, sting at the end, because it's like, we wanted to see the witch die. We wanted to see her get her comeuppance, and that's exactly what we got. And, all right, a little kid didn't die. Yay.
Oh, he wanted to live deliciously.
Now, I will tell you, as not one of the people who eat children in Hollywood, that that child will be haunted for the rest of his life, and we will catch him. I mean, they will catch him.
So overall, about this entire movie-going experience, I'm gonna break this down a little bit here. Usually, we rate these movies on a scale of a 1 to 10 kind of thing, but I kind of want to rate each individual segment and then just give an overall for the movie. So let's kind of break this up here. So the mummy segment of the movie, what do you rate that on a 1 to 10?
It's good little piece of storytelling, well acted, etc. It's not scary. I think maybe what they're going for was that Bellingham is this old soul, and so that's why he seems out of time, out of place. So that's fine with me. I think in the end, though, like, because our ratings are generally based on how well it's done as a horror movie, and this is not scary. I like the camp. I like the humor. I would give this a 5.
You know what? I think really it's pretty boring overall, and something that kind of strikes me about it too is like it doesn't look like a horror movie at all. Like if you paused it on any scene that didn't have the mummy in it, you would not guess this is from a horror movie. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't look or feel like a horror flick to me. The kills, like I said earlier, are the reason to watch it. The kills are cool, especially because they are like, embalming themed, which I think is pretty cool. But I didn't really care about the characters, even though there were some good performances in there. from Brendan Fraser and Christian Bale and Steve Buscemi.
Oh, they were really good. Yeah.
I think I'm probably gonna have to give this one like a 3 out of 10. I wasn't too enthused about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and amend that because I realized I gave Killer Clowns less than a 5. I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about the second feature here, the Cat from Hell?
Okay, so I love it. It's unique. I love a lot about it. I love William Hickey. David Johansen's not the best actor. I could imagine a million New York guys that would have played a better hitman.
Give me a Gandolfini or somebody like that.
Yeah, anybody that would have, I don't know, that would have come off more as a guy who would say, nobody hits me twice. Mm-hmm. Like when he says it, it sounds like, I don't even know what that means when you say it. Nobody hits you twice? Why? Because they hit you 3 times? Like, I don't understand.
It's always more than 2.
Yeah, I want somebody more intimidating, not just somebody with the voice. But, and also, I feel like, they severely underused Mark Margolis, who played the butler. He doesn't say a word. He appears to be bored to be in the movie. And he's amazing. He plays Tio Salamanca on Breaking Bad. He's the guy in the wheelchair.
God damn it. Really? That is him?
Yeah, it's a waste. And this isn't a time when he was a little-known actor. He'd been in Scarface. He'd been in other stuff. So I don't know why they wouldn't have used him more liberally, or why they would even... I guess maybe he just needed a paycheck. I don't know. But I love the transitions from flashback into the present. Mm-hmm. I love a lot of the shots, and I love the cat eye stuff. I think this is a pretty solid, like, 5.5, 6. Maybe.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Yeah, I'm with you there. I like this one because it is unique, because it does have this weird kind of 1940s film noir kind of thing going on at times. It's a little stilted for sure, but there's just this general weirdness about it, especially with Uncle Lewis in there. And yeah, I don't know. It's unique feeling to me. That's what I like about this segment, is it does feel unique. And that cat kill
is the best.
It's the sickest.
So good.
Like, that to me is one of the most memorable deaths in a horror movie, period. I can't really compare that to anything. And it's very, very well done. It would have been very easy for them to do a really cheesy effect on that, but the effect that they use with the prosthetics and stuff, and like I said, him choking and all that stuff, man, it is just gruesome, and you can connect to it. Like, that's one of those things that the most gruesome deaths in horror movies and stuff are the ones that you can kind of relate to.
Yes.
The ones you can relate to are the worst. And seeing this guy choking to death on a living animal, it's fucked up. So to me, like, that kill alone and the cool film noir kind of tones that it has, I think that elevates it to probably about a 6 for me, 6.5.
When I think of Lover's Vow, and I think of what people might think are the flaws of it, the major flaw is the gargoyle looks great, but when it talks, it doesn't really match up.
Yeah, it's a little corny. A little corny.
The thing I would think most people would think is a flaw is, why does the gargoyle kill one guy and not kill the other? But I think if you pay attention to the opening shot, you see that the gargoyle is actually positioned over the skylight for the artist's apartment, and the gargoyle is watching over the artist. So it's like the gargoyle fell in love with the artist.
Oh.
By watching. So
that's cool. I didn't think about that. You're right.
Yeah. The kill of the bartender is just to establish a secret between them and produce this, possibility. Because maybe that's the rule of gargoyles in this, is that they have to have a secret with somebody for them to become human. I mean, whatever. That's fine. I mean, nobody's going to be like, not my gargoyles.
Hashtag not all gargoyles.
Yeah, there's not like an established reasoning behind the way gargoyles work. So, that's fine. It works. The ending where you said, like, what about the kids? That's pretty weird. Like, why would he just say that?
Yeah.
That's stupid. But it is cool that the kids turn into gargoyles. It seems to me as a husband, as a person who has a wife, and my wife is also my best friend. That's not just some trite bullshit I'm saying. She really is. Like, she's the only person I hang out with on a regular occasion, and I reveal all of my secrets to her. Blah, blah, blah.
I guess I know where I stand now, Steve. Fuck me, I guess.
Ben, we're trying to keep it on the DL, remember?
Oh, Steve.
God.
I'll edit this. Right. I'll edit this out. I love you.
Okay, I'll edit this out too. Ben, you're my only friend. I don't even like her. Save me.
Send help.
But yeah, like my wife is my best friend. I tell her everything. I can see why. I can see the motivation. Like, I actually don't even know why it would take him as long as it did to finally reveal it. Honestly, like, I don't know that I could wait until we had like a couple of kids that like they look about 8 to 10 years old. I don't know. I could hold off that long. So like, I see it as all believable. I see it as a well-written story, and I really do think, as I said, that for me at least, it does work on a real, like, genuine fear that I have, and something that's really scary to me is the idea of opening yourself up and then not only losing everything, but also like finding out the person you've invested all this love into is also a monster. So
right.
I think it's well done. At the same time, like I'm not gonna put it up there with Hellraiser or anything like that. So I think a cap for this for me is it's a 7.5.
Yeah, I feel you, and I'm with you. I like this segment a lot. It definitely has the most depth of anything in Tales from the Darkside here. And like you said, I do like that reveal that, you know, after he shares his secret, you know, she becomes a monster to him, and that's kind of like a mirrored sort of reaction where, you know, he basically became a monster to her when he revealed that stuff.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that about it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Is I think it does establish that as a rule, is that she can no longer be human now because he's revealed the secret.
Exactly.
Like, he can't put the cork back in the bottle. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, can't put that toothpaste back in the tube.
Nope.
So I do like it, and again, the special effects, especially for the transformation scene, are just ridiculously fucking cool, man.
Awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So good, yeah.
They look so, and the sound design and stuff, all the nasty, crunchy, squelching sounds.
Mm-hmm. And the
really
cracking,
cool.
just the bone. Ugh.
And this has some good performances in it, too. It does have some superfluous characters and stuff throughout it, but, you know, pretty much all the stories in here do. But overall, I like it for its depth and the kind of metaphor and the special effects. So I think I would throw this in a 6.5. I think it's still not like unbelievable, but it's cool.
Wait, it's not. Oh,
unbelievable. So overall, what is your rating overall for this entire package?
Okay. I think that sometime the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Agreed.
Sometimes it's not. This director, I think, as I've said a number of times throughout, I think what he did was he took the 3 stories that were chosen by the production company and he made them work together in a way where he can lull you in and then really like just tug at the core of you. If it is a fear that you have that someone can get deep within inside of you and then, you know, destroy you, which is, you know, what the cat kill leads into and what happens in Lover's Vow. If that's a fear you have, like this is a very effective way of doing that. It's not the best movie at times, and at times some of the performances, despite the fact that you know that these are good actors, are a little lacking.
Yeah.
I would say that this movie for me is a 6.
I'm right there with you, man. I think this is a 6 as well. It's a fun watch. It's one of those great ones to have on. You know, it's one of those movies that I would rank as one of those ones that's great to have on like during a Halloween party or something like that, where you know.
Yeah.
Every time you leave the room to go get a drink or something and come back, there's a different segment playing, and it's just fun. I like anthology flicks. I do. I really do.
Yeah,
enjoy
that's
them
actually a real good point about anthology flicks is that they're real good to have on at a Halloween party or any party, honestly. But
yeah,
like,
totally so.
Because you can drop in and out. Like you can come in and watch, 10 minutes and be like, oh, okay, like that was great, and then move on,
and then leave, and then come back and watch another one or something like that. So I do like that about it very, very much. It's just fun. It's easy to watch. It's a pretty short flick. It doesn't overstay its welcome or anything like that. It has some levity to it. Great special effects overall. Every story does have some padding in it that I do find a little bit unnecessary, but it's a fun time overall. I'm with you. I think I would rate this. A 6 out of 10.
Woo, woo.
Woo, woo.
Way to go!
So next time on our show, we are going to be covering a movie that I watched for the first time probably about 8 or 9 months ago that just disturbed me so fucking deeply because it is one of the most grimy, depraved, just warped horror movies I think that I have genuinely ever seen. It is just one of the most fucked up movies that I have ever watched. It's Maniac from 1980, not the remake, the original one with old Joe Spinell's.
Yeah, I recently watched this on your recommendation.
Yeah,
and I will be posting our text exchange because this movie fucked with me in a way that no movie's fucked with me in a long time.
Yeah, it is jacked. Like, I genuinely feel like a serial killer made a movie. Not that this is a movie about a serial killer. I feel like you gave a lunatic a movie budget and a camera and said, go make the movie that you would want to see, Jeffrey Dahmer or whoever. And they filmed this. It's warped. I think this movie is a fucking masterpiece. One of the unsung heroes of all horror.
Yes. Yeah, I can't disagree with you, and I'm excited to talk about it. So
I'm kind of like, I'm looking forward to watching it again, but I'm not looking forward to watching it again. Yeah, because it's like that's just a dark, terrible place that
it made me feel gross.
Yeah,
and it will again. So yeah,
I'll look forward to covering that on the show with you there next week. In the meantime, where can they find us on them internets?
Well, you can always find us at Dead Lovely Pod on Instagram or Twitter. Instagram predominantly, but we got some tweets.
We'll tweet at you. We'll come at you tweeting.
We also have a Facebook group, which is growing by the day. Would love to see some female listeners.
Oh, it's just a boy show over here.
Yeah, and I hope that we're presenting some material that women would like to hear. If not, you can always email us at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com and tell us what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, or what we should do.
There you go. That's a good way to do it. You guys can find me on the Instagram and Twitter at Ben Eller Guitars, all one word. Where can they find you, Steve?
I'm at Steven Spratling. That's Steven with a V, the only way to spell it. And I'm not going to spell Spratling for you. You can figure it out.
Fuck you. Well, in the meantime, please be sure to go on iTunes, rate, and review our podcast. It helps us a whole ton, even if it's just a one-word review that says sick with like 10 eyes and a 5-star. Yeah, that'll help us out a whole bunch. So please be sure to do that. So be sure to stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be covering Maniac, and we will see you guys then. In the meantime, you guys have been wonderful, and we've been dead and lovely. Goodbye, y'all.
Bye-bye.